Bienvenidos y bienvenidas a este encuentro tan deseado, y me atrevo a anticipar que tan inolvidable, con la poeta, ensayista y profesora Anne Carson. She's hearing me. Dear Anne Carson, welcome to the José Hierro Foundation and welcome to Getafe. Gift of language and creativity. In this, we are greatly assisted and supported by the regional government of the Community of Madrid and by the City Council of Getafe and the Hierro family, of course. For all of us, your work is an inspiration, a guiding light for our time, and we greatly appreciate your generosity and your presence here with us in a place whose very foundation and lifeblood is poetry itself. We hope our admiration translates into a feeling of welcome. Bienvenida, Sara Hernández, alcaldesa de Getafe, Herminio Vico, primer teniente de alcaldesa, concejal delegado de Hacienda, Recursos Humanos y Modernización de la Administración, y Luis Domínguez, concejal delegado de Cultura y Convivencia. Bienvenida a María Fuentes, coordinadora general de Vaso Roto Ediciones, editora, por tanto, de Anne Carson, a quien presentará hoy en nombre de Janet Lozano Clarion, fundadora y directora de Vaso Roto, traductora de Anne Carson. Nuestro saludo afectuosísimo a Janet, que no ha podido estar en España. Bienvenidos, queridos alumnos, exalumnos, profesores, históricos y en activo de nuestra fundación. Es un placer también saludar a todos los amantes de la poesía de Anne Carson que nos visitan esta tarde. Y bueno, creo que llevo 15 años trabajando en este centro. Nunca habíamos recibido a tanta gente con tanto entusiasmo y es una alegría inmensa. Este evento, este milagro, pues así lo sentíamos cuando se trataba más de un sueño de lectoras empedernidas que de una opción viable, nace de la iniciativa de la editorial Vaso Roto, con quienes hemos tenido el gusto profesional y humano de gestionarlo, y del patrocinio del Ayuntamiento de Getafe en una muestra más de su apoyo sostenido a este proyecto y a la cultura literaria en nuestro ámbito. Muchísimas gracias por dar cuerpo y realidad a este encuentro con una autora tan destacada. El lunes y el martes de esta misma semana, más de 50, han sido 60 por lo menos, lectores de Carson se han dado cita en este mismo espacio, 3 horas cada tarde, para desentrañar, iluminar y conocer las claves de escritura, los intereses de fondo y las tonalidades y variaciones tan ricas de la obra de la poeta. El seminario El Mundo, según Anne Carson, desarrollado brillantemente por el poeta, ensayista y traductor Jordi Doce, a quien también saludamos, ha sido un éxito no solo por la amenísima densidad de sus contenidos, sino también por la conversación y el intercambio colectivo que ha sabido suscitar. Esa es la razón de ser de nuestro proyecto. Es imposible sustanciar en unas líneas los motivos de nuestra admiración por la obra de Carson, pero Jordi Doce, en la convocatoria del seminario, sintetizaba certeramente las texturas de su obra. Anne Carson parece concebir la poesía desde fuera, como un foco con que iluminar el mundo y nuestra vida en él. Este espíritu lúdico la lleva a emplear todo tipo de formas, géneros y materiales. Ella misma ha evocado el impacto que el descubrimiento del griego antiguo tuvo en su sensibilidad. La visión de aquel texto impenetrable, pero de gran belleza visual, me cautivó. Todos sus libros son un intento de dar al lector esa experiencia juvenil, creando un texto que despierte la curiosidad ajena y a la vez la desafíe. Libros que borran las fronteras entre géneros y forman un delta donde confluyen los ríos de la poesía, el fragmento, el ensayo, el artículo académico y la narración. Ironía, subversión, lucidez, humor irreverente, pero también un enjambre de emociones a ras de piel, de cautivadora sinceridad, una búsqueda reflexiva de sentido por medio del arte, la historia y el pensamiento. Y cito ahora a la propia Anne Carson, que dejó escrito lo siguiente. Los griegos empleaban una palabra para hablar de la gracia de un poema, el encanto, que hace de él un poema y hace que quieras recordarlo. Así que para ellos, crear un poema es crear algo que tenga tanto encanto y sea tan bueno que se convierta en un regalo que el mundo quiera recibir y también devolver. y esta reciprocidad se extiende en el tiempo y hace que las culturas adquieran sustancia en ese constante ir y venir. En este momento histórico, en el que el papel de la cultura y del intercambio entre culturas parece el excipiente indispensable de la convivencia y de la paz, la obra y la voz, aquí y ahora, de Anne Carson constituyen un don, un regalo fértil que agradecemos infinitamente. Y quiero dar la palabra ahora a María Fuentes, coordinadora general de Vaso Roto Ediciones. Gracias.
Hola, muchas gracias a todos por estar aquí. Janet no ha podido venir, ella es la directora de Vaso Roto, pero voy a leer unas palabras que me ha dejado. Lo clásico es lo moderno traído a nuestra realidad. Cobra sentido en el momento en el que el pasado se recoge y se cierne el mito. El mito colectivo pasa a ser el mito personal. Anne Carson es la poeta que descubre para nosotros esa verdad subjetiva, en la medida que nos da las herramientas para leernos en lo más profundo de lo humano. Su apuesta inicia en su manera de mirar, de interpretar lo real, eso que no existe en el afuera, esas imágenes que están allí esperando a ser develadas por el lector y lectora, sumidos en el misterio de la vida. Existe la tendencia a traducir los clásicos griegos y latinos desde lo antiguo. Anne Carson señala que Catulo, Safo y Alceo son frescos desde aquella vez que dejaron su voz en la tinta. Para Vaso Roto ha sido un privilegio desde hace 20 años tener a Anne Carson en nuestro catálogo. Creemos en la poesía y tenemos como misión formar lectores capaces de iluminarse a sí mismos en la medida de su dolor, en su capacidad de goce. Trabajar para lectores con ansias de saber más sobre sí mismos es uno de nuestros grandes privilegios y lo es para todos los que trabajamos en Vaso Roto. En homenaje a James Merrill, de Broken Bowl, es la enseñanza de toda una vida. Estamos rotos y el mundo es un vaso roto y no lo podemos remediar, pero sin embargo, astilla a astilla, la luz puede recogerse, la luz puede recogernos. A esta tradición cabalística pertenece Carson, a esa estirpe de luz de otro tipo. No es una luz celestial, se trata de la chispa que estalla del propio cuerpo de su lenguaje y rebota más luz en el paisaje que sus ojos iluminan. En el caso de Ensayo de Cristal, que es un homenaje, como sabéis, a Emily Bronte, en el que explora el amor desde la visión. Lo anecdótico es la madre, el padre. Sin embargo, no son los personajes, es la tradición cabalística, es el caminar más allá de la luz, más allá del amor y más allá de lo amado. Digamos que su obra podría definirse como una soma erótica, versos que trascienden lo humano, el reclamo, el rencor, la soberbia, para descender en ese légamo quebradizo, frío de la palabra poética. A ese frío se expone la poeta, se pone frente a él hasta dejarse atravesar. ¿De qué materia se cubre su lector para salvarse? De su compañía. Anne Carson es compañía porque habla de aquello que a todas y todos nos sucede. En el frío hay una belleza cercana a la gracia, ese don al que alude Carson y al que aludía Julieta, en Economía de lo que no se pierde, y evocando a Mauss nos recuerda que la seña, el senoi, es intercambiar un don por otro, un don que no sea el dinero. Me detengo a reflexionar si el dinero no es uno de los grandes problemas de nuestro tiempo. En ese libro extraordinario, Carson nos lleva a Aristóteles, a Marx, a Simónides, a Paul Celan, para mostrarnos que intercambiar gracias es la forma sublime de humanizar el saber. Estamos en guerra, todos lo sabemos. Hemos padecido guerras durante siglos. Eso resulta benéfico para algunas minorías de poderosos. Librar una guerra interior, nuestra guerra interior, nuestro ser, es la tarea de la poesía. Amo y odio a la vez, no sé por qué, pero lo siento y me atormento, escribió Catulo. Y Safo escribió, luego de mi muerte nada quedará, no habrá palabra mía. Estas han sido las barcas que nos ha devuelto el universo de Carson. Estamos por entrar a imprenta con un nuevo libro, Age of Age, HDH, una versión moderna del Heracles de Eurípides en el que el poeta introduce su propia pintura y su arte, un sentido del espacio que comparte con su pareja Robert Curry. Dar textura al espacio, dejar que sea parte esencial de la poesía, que hable, que calle, que nombre. A nadie mejor que a ella se le puede asignar la máxima horaciana que procede de Simónides de Cefeos. La poesía es pintura que habla y la pintura es poesía muda. El día de ayer, Carson presentó en el Museo del Prado. Hoy está en la Fundación Centro de Poesía José Hierro, invitada por su directora Julieta Valero. Julieta es autora también de nuestra casa. Ella es una autora muy querida que ha sabido mirar y mimar nuestro trabajo. Gracias, Julieta, por esta hermosa colaboración. Agradecemos también la invaluable colaboración del Ayuntamiento de Getafe y de su ilustrísima alcaldesa Sara Hernández, del concejal delegado de Cultura y Convivencia Luis José Hernández, de todo el Ayuntamiento y también de toda la organización del Festival Getafe Negro. Además, también muchas gracias a la Embajada de Canadá por todo lo que nos ha ayudado en este trabajo. Carson, merecedora del Premio Princesa de Asturias de las Letras, es puente, es ciega cabalística, seguidora de Isaac Luria. Dentro de la poesía norteamericana contemporánea es la más alta exponente de los balaustres que unen este lado del océano con el otro. Agradezco a vosotras y vosotras celebrar este día memorable, no solamente entiendo que para la Fundación, para Vaso Roto, para Getafe, sino para la poesía. Carson, thank you for being here. And thank you for enlarging our ways of reading ourselves and with it, our reality.
You don't stop, we can't have a reading. Since I have no idea what was said in the introductions, I'll just assume it was positive and go forward, hopefully. So I'm going to read first a piece, a short essay that I think is not in any books that are translated already into Spanish, but I think we have some translation on the screen. Is that right? Yes. So this is a short essay called Merry Christmas from Hegel. It was the year my brother died. I live up north and had few friends, or they all went away. Christmas Day, I was sitting in my armchair reading something about Hegel. You will forgive me if you are someone who knows a lot of Hegel or understands it. I do not and will paraphrase badly. But I understood him to be saying he was fed up with popular criticism of his terrible prose and claiming that conventional grammar, with its clumsy dichotomy of subject and verb, was in conflict with what he called speculation. Speculation being the proper business of philosophy. Speculation being the effort to grasp reality in its interactive entirety. The function of a sentence like reason is spirit was not to assert a fact, he said, but to lay reason side by side with spirit and allow their meanings to tenderly mingle in speculation. I was overjoyed by this notion of a philosophic space where words drift in gentle mutual redefinition of one another, but at the same time wretchedly lonely with all my family dead, and here it was Christmas Day, so I put on big boots and coat and went out to do some snow standing. Not since childhood had I done snow standing. I had forgotten how astounding it is. I went to the middle of a woods. Fir trees, the teachers of this all around. Minus 20 degrees in the wind, but inside the trees is no wind. The world subtracts itself in layers. Outer sounds like traffic and shoveling vanish. Inner sounds become audible, cracks, sighs, caresses, twigs, bird breath, toenails of squirrel. The fir trees move hugely. The white is perfectly curved, stunned with itself. Puffs of ice fog and some gold things float up. Shadows rake their motionlessness across the snow, with the vibration of other shadow moving crosswise on them, shadow on shadow, in precise velocities. It is very cold, then that too begins to subtract itself. The body chills on its surface, but the core is hot, and it is possible to disconnect the surface, to withdraw to the core, where a ravishing peace flows in, so ravishing that I am unembarrassed to use the word ravishing, and it is not a piece of separation from the senses, but the washing through piece of looking, listening, feeling at the very core of snow, at the very core of the care of snow. It has nothing to do with Hegel, and he would not admire the clumsily conventional sentences in which I have tried to tell about it. But I suspect if I had not been trying on the mood of Hegel's particular grammatical indignation that Christmas Day, I would never have gone out to stand in the snow, or stayed to speculate with it, or had the patience to sit down and make a record of speculation for myself, as if it were a worthy way to spend an afternoon, a plausible way to change the icy horror of holiday into a sort of homecoming. Merry Christmas from Hegel. Thank you. Now I think I shall read from a book that is available in Spanish, The Albertine Workout. I don't know how many of you have ever read Proust. Let's have a show of hands. À la recherche du temps perdu. Okay, well, you should. And you should read it in French because it's way funnier in French. And I decided to do that at one point in my life. It took me 6 years to read the thing. It's very long, as you know, but I only read it for about 30 minutes a day while eating my breakfast muesli. And I have to say it was one of the best experiences of my life. But here's the thing that happens when you read Proust, is that eventually you come to the end. And then you have to live through that interval which is called after Proust, when your whole life seems gray and uninteresting by comparison. So in that interval, you have to find things to do to sort of keep the connection with Proust. So you read biographies of Proust or criticism or other people who write like Proust, but it's all pointless. And anyway, in that interval, I thought a way to keep the connection with Proust would be to write about Albertine, who is his main female character. So I wrote this essay, which is called The Albertine Workout. And it's in a whole list, 59 actually, separate paragraphs, and then a few appendices. Albertine, the name, is not a common name for a girl in France, although Albert is widespread for a boy. Albertine's name occurs 2,363 times in Proust's novel, more than any other character. Albertine herself is present or mentioned on 807 pages of Proust's novel. On a good 19% of these pages, she is asleep. Albertine is believed by some critics, including André Gide, to be a disguised version of Proust's chauffeur, Alfred Agostinelli. This is called the transposition theory. Albertine constitutes a romantic, psychosexual, and moral obsession for the narrator of the novel, mainly throughout Volume 5 of Proust's 7-volume in the Pléiade edition work. Volume 5 is called La Prisonnière in French and The Captive in English. It was declared by Roger Shattuck, a world expert on Proust, in his award-winning 1974 study, to be the one volume of the novel that a time-pressed reader might safely and entirely skip. The problems of Albertine are, from the narrator's point of view, A, lying, B, lesbianism, and from Albertine's point of view, being imprisoned in the narrator's house. Her bad taste in music, although several times remarked on, is not a problem. Albertine denies she is a lesbian when Marcel questions her. Her friends are all lesbians. Her denials fascinate him. Her friends fascinate him too, especially by their contrast with his friends who are gay but closeted. Her friends parade themselves at the beach and kiss in restaurants. Despite intense and assiduous questioning, Marcel cannot discover what exactly it is that women do together. This palpitating specificity of female pleasure, as he calls it. Albertine says she does not know. Once Albertine has been imprisoned by Marcel in his house, his feelings change. It was her freedom that first attracted him, the way the wind billowed in her garments. This attraction is now replaced by a feeling of ennui, boredom. She becomes, as he says, a heavy slave. This is predictable, given Marcel's theory of desire, which equates possession of another person with erasure of the otherness of her mind, while at the same time positing otherness as what makes another person desirable. And in point of fact, how can he possess her mind if she is a lesbian? His fascination continues. Albertine is a girl in a flat sports cap pushing her bicycle across the beach. When Marcel first sees her, he keeps going back to this image. Albertine has no family, profession, or prospects. She is soon installed in Marcel's house. There she has a separate bedroom. He emphasizes that she is nonetheless an obedient person. See above on Albertine as heavy slave. Albertine's face is sweet and beautiful from the front, but from the side has a hook-nosed aspect that fills Marcel with horror. He would take her face in his hands and reposition it. The state of Albertine that most pleases Marcel is Albertine asleep. By falling asleep, she becomes a plant, he says. Plants do not actually sleep, nor do they lie, or even bluff, yet they do, however, expose their genitalia. Sometimes in her sleep, Albertine throws off her kimono and lies naked. Sometimes, then, Marcel possesses her. Albertine appears not to wake up. Marcel appears to think he is the master of such moments. And perhaps he is. At this point, parenthetically, if we had time, several observations could be made about the similarity between Albertine and Ophelia, Hamlet's Ophelia, starting from the sexual life of plants, which Proust and Shakespeare equally enjoy using as a language of female desire. Albertine, like Ophelia, embodies for her lover blooming girlhood, but also castration, casualty, threat, and obstacle. Albertine, like Ophelia, is condemned for a voracious sexual appetite whose expression is denied her. Ophelia takes sexual appetite into the river and drowns it amid water plants. Albertine distorts hers into the false consciousness of a sleep plant. In both scenarios, the man appears to be in control of the script, yet he keeps getting himself tangled up in the wiles of the woman. On the other hand, who is bluffing whom is hard to say. Albertine's laugh has the color and smell of a geranium. Marcel gives Albertine the idea that he intends to marry her, but he does not. She bores him. Albertine's eyes are blue and saucy. Her hair is like crinkly black violets. Albertine's behavior in Marcel's household is that of a domestic animal, which enters any door it finds open, or comes to lie beside its master on his bed, making a place for itself. Marcel has to train Albertine not to come into his room until he rings for her. Marcel gradually manages to separate Albertine from all her friends, whom he regards as evil influences. Marcel never says the word lesbian to Albertine. He says, "the kind of woman I object to." Albertine denies that she knows any such women. Marcel assumes she is lying. At first, Albertine has no individuality. Indeed, Marcel cannot distinguish her from her girlfriends, or remember their names, or decide which of them to pursue. They form a frieze in his mind, pushing their bicycles across the beach with the blue waves breaking behind them. This pictorial multiplicity of Albertine evolves gradually into a plastic and moral multiplicity. Albertine is not a solid object. She is unknowable. When he brings his face close to hers to kiss, she is 10 different Albertines in succession. One night, Albertine goes dancing with a girlfriend at the casino. When questioned about this, she lies. Albertine is not a natural liar. Albertine lies so much and so badly that Marcel is drawn into the game. He lies too. Marcel's jealousy, impotence, and desire are all exasperated to their highest pitch by this game. Who is bluffing whom is hard to say. See above on Hamlet. Near the end of volume 5, Albertine finally runs away, vanishing into the night and leaving the window open. Marcel fusses and fumes and writes her a letter in which he claims he had just decided to buy her a yacht and a Rolls Royce when she disappeared. Now he will have to cancel these orders. The yacht had a price tag of 27,000 francs, about $75,000, and was to be engraved at the prow with her favorite stanza of a poem by Mallarmé. Albertine's death in a riding accident on page 642 of volume 5 does not emancipate Marcel from jealousy. It removes only one of the innumerable Albertines he would have to forget. The jealous lover cannot rest until he is able to touch all the points in space and time ever occupied by the beloved. There is no right or wrong in Proust, says Samuel Beckett, and I believe him. The bluffing, however, remains a gray area. Let's return to the transposition theory. On May 30th, 1914, French newspapers reported that Alfred Agostinelli, a student aviator, fell from his machine into the Mediterranean Sea near Antibes and was drowned. Agostinelli, you recall, was the chauffeur whom Proust, in Letters to Friends, admitted that he not only loved but adored. Proust had bought Alfred the airplane, which cost 27,000 francs, about $75,000, and had had it engraved on the fuselage with a stanza of Mallarmé. Proust also paid for Alfred's flying lessons and registered him at the flying school under the name Marcel Swann. The flying school was in Monaco. In order to spy on Alfred while he was there, Proust sent another favorite manservant whose name was Albert. Compare and contrast Albertine's sudden fictional death by runaway horse with Alfred Agostinelli's sudden real-life death by runaway plane. Poignantly, both unfortunate beloveds managed to speak to his or her lover from the wild blue yonder. Agostinelli, before setting out for his final flight, had written a long letter, which Proust was heartbroken to receive the day after the plane crash. Transposed to the end of the novel, this exit scene becomes one of the weirdest in fiction. Several weeks after accepting the news that Albertine has been thrown from her horse and killed, Marcel gets a telegram, which says, "You think me dead, but I'm alive and long to see you. Affectionately, Albertine." Marcel agonizes for days about this news and debates with himself whether to resume relations with her, only to realize that the signature on the telegram had been misread by the telegraph operator. The telegram is not from Albertine at all. It's from another long-lost girlfriend whose name, Gilberte, shares its central letters with Albertine's. One only loves that which one does not entirely possess, says Marcel. There are 4 ways Albertine is able to avoid becoming entirely possessed in Volume 5: by sleeping, by lying, by being a lesbian, or by being dead. Only the first 3 of these can she bluff. Proust was still correcting a typescript of La Prisonnière on his deathbed, November 1922. He was fine-tuning the character of Albertine and working into her speech certain phrases from Alfred Agostinelli's final letter. It is always tricky, this question of whether to read an author's work in light of his life or not. Granted, the transposition theory is a graceless, intrusive, and saddening hermeneutic mechanism, in the case of Proust, it is also irresistible. Here is one final spark to be struck from rubbing Alfred against Albertine, as it were. Let's consider the stanza of poetry that Proust had inscribed on the fuselage of Alfred's plane, the same verse that Marcel promises to engrave on the prow of Albertine's yacht. From her favorite poem, he says, it is 4 verses of Mallarmé about a swan that finds itself frozen into the ice of a lake in winter. Swans are, of course, migratory birds. This one, for some reason, failed to fly off with its fellow swans when the time came. What a weird and lonely shadow to cast on these 2 love affairs, the fictional and the real. What a desperate analogy to offer of the lover's final wintry paranoia of possession. As Hamlet says to Ophelia, accurately but ruthlessly, "You should not have believed me." Here's the stanza of Mallarmé in English. A swan of olden times remembers that it is he, the one magnificent but without hope of setting himself free, for he failed to sing of a region for living, when barren winter burned all around him with ennui. And the final quote from Marcel in La Prisonnière, Everything indeed is at least double. That is the end of the workout proper. I shall now add 2 of the appendices. An appendix, I guess you know. Do you have this word in Spanish? What do you call an appendix? An appendix? Okay, good. Well, it's supposed to add some kind of thickening to the information attached to the narrative, so my 2 favorite ones are very brief. Appendix 29 on kimonos. Knowledge of other people is unendurable. Japanese kimonos were in style in Paris in the 1920s. They had been redesigned for the European market with less sleeve and more pocket. Albertine keeps all her letters in the pocket of the kimono that she so carelessly tosses over a chair in Marcel's room just before falling asleep. The truth about Albertine is so close, but Marcel does not investigate. Knowledge of other people is unendurable. And Appendix 34 on getting rid of your slave. It occurs to me that a novelist has the option to disenfranchise, disempower, or delete his slave grammatically by taking away the part of speech in which she acts as a subject connected to a predicate. So Marcel's ultimate reference to Albertine on the last page of the novel is a sentence with no main verb. It says, "Profound Albertine, whom I saw sleeping and who was dead." So much for Proust. Which brings us to the end of the reading proper. However, I do think, in case I never see you again, that we should enjoy one more poetic event together. So let's do an interactive short talk, which means a short talk is a 13-second lecture on this or that topic. And an interactive short talk obviously involves me saying a part and then you say a part, and it comes together to form a short meaning. Okay? So for this one, though, your part has 2 parts, so I shall divide you in half. Here. Chorus A, chorus B. Chorus A, your line is, "Let's buy it." All together in 1, 2, 3. Let's buy it. Excellent. Okay. Chorus B, your line is, "What a bargain." 1, 2, 3. What a bargain. Okay. Now focus. Remember your line. Short talk on the sensation of airplane takeoff. Well, you know, that could be true love running towards my life with its arms up, yelling, "Let's buy it. What a bargain." Thank you and good night. I have to go into the other room to say goodbye to them, and also the book signing, if you want a book signed, will be in there. It's the library, okay? So see you soon.